Tyler Webb had never seen the ocean before. Not in real life anyway. Sure, he'd watched it on TV, seen pictures online, but standing there on the Santa Monica beach with his feet in the actual sand, feeling the actual breeze on his face, that was something completely different. He was 28 years old, and this was his first real vacation. Ever. Back home in Virginia, Tyler worked construction. He'd been doing it since he was 18, right after high school. The work was hard. Roofing in summer heat, framing houses in winter cold, everything in between. But it paid the bills. Well, most of them anyway. His mom needed help with her medications, and his little sister Jessica was in college now. After covering their expenses and his own rent, there wasn't much left over, but Tyler had been saving. 3 years of tucking away $20 here, $50 there, skipping nights out with friends, bringing lunch from home instead of buying it. And finally, he had enough for 1 week in California. His buddy from work had laughed when Tyler told him about the trip. California? Man, that's expensive. You sure you can afford it? Tyler had just smiled. He'd found a cheap motel about 2 miles from the beach. It wasn't fancy. The carpet was stained, the AC made weird noises, and he was pretty sure the shower hadn't been properly cleaned in months. But it was cheap, and more importantly, it was in California. The actual California he'd always seen in movies. Now it was his second day here, and he was determined to enjoy every single minute. He'd walked the 2 miles from his motel to the beach, saving the bus fare. The morning had been perfect. Cool air, fewer crowds, just him and the endless water stretching out to the horizon. Tyler had grown up in the mountains of Southwest Virginia. His hometown had one stoplight, a gas station, a Dollar General, and not much else. The closest thing to swimming they had was the creek that ran behind the old elementary school. His dad, before he passed away when Tyler was 12, used to take him there every summer. Taught him how to swim in that cold mountain water. You never know when you might need to save yourself or somebody else, his dad used to say. Tyler remembered those words often, even now. He was sitting on the sand, just watching the waves roll in and out, when he noticed something wasn't right. There was a girl in the water, maybe 50 yards from shore. At first, Tyler thought she was just swimming, but something about the way she was moving caught his attention. Her arms were flailing, not in a playful way, in a panic way. Tyler stood up, squinting against the bright sun. Other people on the beach were starting to notice too. A couple next to him pointed. Someone's kid asked his mom what was wrong with the lady in the water, but nobody was moving. Everyone was just watching. The girl went under, came back up, went under again. Tyler didn't think. He just ran. His feet hit the water and the cold shocked him for a second. The Pacific Ocean was way colder than it looked. But he pushed forward, diving into the waves. He'd been a decent swimmer in that Virginia creek, but this was different. The ocean had currents, real strength behind it. Every wave that hit him tried to push him back toward shore. He kept swimming. His arms burned. His lungs started to ache. The salt water stung his eyes. When he reached her, she was barely conscious. Her eyes were wide with fear and she was gasping, swallowing more water than air. Tyler grabbed her from behind, the way his dad had taught him years ago. "Don't let them grab you," his dad's voice echoed in his head. "They'll panic and pull you both under." The current was strong, way stronger than Tyler had expected. It was pulling them both sideways, away from where he'd started. For a moment, just a moment, Tyler felt real fear. What if he couldn't get them back? What if he'd jumped in to save someone and ended up drowning them both? But he pushed the fear away. He kicked hard, using his legs more than his arms, keeping the girl's head above water. One stroke at a time, one kick at a time. The shore didn't seem to be getting any closer. His muscles screamed at him. His worn-out sneakers, which he'd forgotten to take off before running into the water, felt like they weighed 100 pounds each. But slowly, inch by inch, they moved toward the beach. Tyler's feet finally hit sand. He half-carried, half-dragged the girl onto the shore. They both collapsed on the wet sand, both gasping for air. Tyler's chest heaved. His arms felt like jelly. Someone was calling for help. Tyler heard sirens in the distance. A lifeguard appeared. Tyler hadn't even seen the lifeguard station before and took over, checking the girl's breathing, asking her questions. The girl was coughing up seawater, but she was breathing. She was alive. Tyler sat back on his heels, suddenly aware that a small crowd had gathered around them. People were taking pictures with their phones. Someone asked if he was okay. Tyler just nodded, still trying to catch his breath. The paramedics arrived fast. They had the girl on a stretcher, checking her vitals, putting an oxygen mask on her face. Tyler watched, relieved to see her eyes were open and alert now. She was going to be fine. The girl turned her head, looking around until her eyes found Tyler's. Even with the oxygen mask on, he could see her mouth the words, "Thank you." Tyler gave her a small nod. He wanted to say something, to make sure she was really okay, but one of the paramedics was already asking him questions. Was he hurt? Did he swallow any water? Did he need to be checked out? "I'm fine," Tyler said. His voice came out rougher than he expected. "Just need to catch my breath." The girl's phone was ringing. Someone had retrieved her bag from where she'd left it on the beach. A lifeguard answered it, and Tyler could hear a man's voice on the other end, panicked, asking if Sophia was all right. Sophia. So that was her name. Tyler stood up slowly. His legs wobbled a bit, and his cheap t-shirt was completely soaked, clinging to him. He looked down at his sneakers. They were probably ruined now. Those were his only good pair. Well, not good exactly, but better than his work boots. He'd have to see if they'd dry out. The paramedics were focused on Sophia now, talking to whoever was on the phone, explaining what happened. The crowd was starting to break up. A few people came up to Tyler, patting him on the back, calling him a hero. Tyler didn't feel like a hero. He felt tired and cold and like his arms might fall off. But mostly he just felt grateful. Grateful that he'd noticed her in time. Grateful that his dad had taught him to swim all those years ago. Grateful that she was alive. Nobody asked for his name. Nobody took down his information. The lifeguard thanked him, shook his hand with a firm grip. "You did good, man. Real good." Tyler nodded, gave Sophia one last look. She was sitting up now, the oxygen mask off, looking much better, and then he quietly walked away. He had a long walk back to his motel. His clothes were soaking wet, squishing with every step. People on the boardwalk gave him odd looks. Tyler didn't care. He kept thinking about those few minutes in the water. How close it had been, how easily it could have gone wrong. By the time he got back to his motel room, Tyler was exhausted. He peeled off his wet clothes, hung them over the shower rod to dry, and collapsed on the bed. His whole body ached in a way that was different from construction work. This was deeper in his bones. As he lay there staring at the water-stained ceiling, Tyler felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose, maybe, or satisfaction. He'd saved someone's life today. That meant something. That mattered. He had no idea that the woman he'd pulled from the ocean was the daughter of one of the richest men in America. He didn't know that security cameras had caught bits and pieces of the rescue. He didn't know that by tomorrow, Sophia Chen would be searching every corner of California trying to find him. All Tyler knew was that he'd done the right thing. And in his world, in the world his parents had raised him in, that was enough. Tomorrow he'd explore more of the city, maybe try to find some free museums, maybe walk along the pier. He still had 5 days left of his vacation, and he was going to make every single one of them count. Tyler closed his eyes, the sound of the ocean still echoing in his ears. And for the first time in years, he slept like someone who had nothing to worry about. Sophia Chen couldn't sleep. It had been 3 days since the rescue, and every time she closed her eyes, she saw the dark water pulling her down. But more than that, she saw the face of the man who had saved her, kind brown eyes, a slight accent she couldn't quite place, hands that were rough and calloused when he grabbed her, pulling her to safety. She didn't even know his name. The morning after the incident, Sophia had gone back to the beach with her father's security team. They'd talked to the lifeguards, asked if anyone knew the guy who jumped in. Nobody did. He'd just disappeared into the crowd. "Miss Chen, maybe he doesn't want to be found," one of the security guys had suggested carefully. Some people don't like the attention, but Sophia couldn't accept that. This wasn't about attention or publicity. This was about gratitude. The man had risked his life for her, and she didn't even get a chance to properly thank him. Her father, Richard Chen, had been terrified when he got the call that day. He'd been in a business meeting in San Francisco when his head of security interrupted to tell him his daughter nearly drowned. Richard had built a tech empire worth billions, but in that moment, none of it mattered. All he could think about was getting to his daughter. By the time he arrived at the hospital, Sophia was already cleared to go home. She was fine physically, but she kept talking about the stranger who saved her. "Dad, I need to find him," she said that night at dinner. They were sitting in the massive dining room of their Malibu estate, a room that could seat 30 people but usually just held the two of them. Sophia's mother had passed away when she was 10, and it had just been her and her father ever since. Richard looked at his daughter, his only child, the most important person in his world, and nodded. "Okay, we'll find him." Richard Chen didn't do anything halfway. By the next morning, he had hired a private investigator, reviewed security footage from every camera within a mile of the beach, and put together a team dedicated to finding one man. The problem was the footage wasn't great. They could see someone running into the water. They could see the rescue happening. But the man's face was always at the wrong angle or too far away or blocked by other people. One camera caught him walking away afterward, but he disappeared around a corner and never appeared on any other cameras. It was like he was a ghost. He was wearing a blue t-shirt, Sophia told the investigator, kind of faded like he'd had it for a while, and a baseball cap. I think it said something about Virginia. I'm not sure. Everything was so blurry. The investigator made notes. Virginia. That was something at least. Sophia decided to take matters into her own hands. She posted on social media, describing what happened and asking if anyone knew the man who saved her. The post went viral within hours. Thousands of people shared it. Hundreds claimed they knew who he was, but every lead turned out to be false. Some people sent pictures of random guys in blue t-shirts. Others just wanted attention. A few tried to pretend they were the rescuer, hoping for some kind of reward. On the third day, Sophia did something she rarely did. She agreed to go on the local news. She wasn't comfortable with publicity. Growing up as Richard Chen's daughter meant that cameras had always been around, but Sophia had spent most of her life trying to stay out of the spotlight. She was a PhD student studying marine biology at UC Santa Cruz. She cared about ocean conservation, not social events or red carpets. But this was different. This was important. The news segment aired that evening. Sophia sat next to her father, her hands folded nervously in her lap, and told the story. How she'd gone into the water that morning for a quick swim. How she'd underestimated the current. How she'd felt herself being pulled under. The panic setting in, the certainty that she was going to drown. And then the stranger appeared, fighting against the same current that was drowning her, pulling her to safety, saving her life. "I just want to thank him properly," Sophia said to the camera, her voice steady but emotional. "He didn't leave his name. He didn't ask for anything. He just helped me and walked away. If you're watching this, or if anyone knows who he is, please come forward. I just want to say thank you." Richard added something that Sophia hadn't expected. "We're offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to this man. Not because we think he wants money, but because we want him to know how serious we are about finding him." The segment ended. Sophia felt drained. She hated being on TV, hated the attention, but if it helped find him, it was worth it. What Sophia and her father didn't know was that Tyler Webb was completely oblivious to all of this. Tyler had spent the past 3 days enjoying his vacation. He'd walked along the Santa Monica Pier, watched street performers, ate cheap tacos from a food truck that had a line around the block. He'd gone to the free exhibits at the Getty Center, spent an afternoon at the public library just reading in the air conditioning. His phone was an old model, the kind you had to pay for minutes on. He mostly used it for emergencies. No social media apps, no news alerts, just calls and texts. So when he walked into the motel lobby on his last morning in California, preparing to check out, he had no idea that half the state was looking for him. The woman at the front desk, Rosa, had been nice to him all week. She was probably in her 50s, always smiling despite working what Tyler assumed was a pretty thankless job. But this morning, Rosa's eyes were huge when she saw him. She was staring at her phone, then at Tyler, then back at her phone. "That's you," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "What's me?" Tyler asked, confused. He set his duffel bag down. Everything he owned for this trip fit in one bag. Rosa turned her phone around. The local news was playing, and there on the screen was Sophia Chen, the girl he'd pulled from the ocean, sitting next to an older Asian man in an expensive suit. Tyler watched, his stomach slowly sinking as Sophia told the story of the rescue. He heard her describe him, heard her ask people to come forward, and then he heard the older man, her father apparently, mention a $50,000 reward. "Oh no," Tyler muttered. "Oh, yes," Rosa said, getting excited now. "This is you. You're the guy. You saved Richard Chen's daughter. Do you know who Richard Chen is?" Tyler shook his head slowly. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but he couldn't place it. "He's one of the richest men in America. Tech billionaire. And you saved his daughter." Rosa was already reaching for her phone. "I need to call the number they gave." "Wait," Tyler said, holding up his hand. "Please wait." Rosa paused, finger hovering over her phone. Tyler felt overwhelmed. This wasn't what he wanted. He didn't save that girl for money or recognition. He did it because she needed help. Because it was the right thing to do. That's how he was raised. The idea of taking $50,000 for doing the right thing felt wrong. Really wrong. "I don't want the reward," Tyler said quietly. Rosa looked at him like he'd grown a second head. "What, are you crazy? That's $50,000? "I know, but I didn't do it for money. Tyler struggled to find the words. "I just helped someone who needed help. That's all." Rosa stared at him for a long moment. Then her expression softened. She reminded Tyler of his mom in that moment, that look of understanding mixed with exasperation. "Mijo," she said gently, "that girl has been on the news every day looking for you. Her father has people searching everywhere. This isn't about the money. They just want to thank you." "They don't need to thank me," Tyler insisted. "Maybe not," Rosa said, "but maybe they need to. For them, you understand?" Tyler didn't understand, not really. But he could see Rosa wasn't going to let this go. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew she was right. If his mom or sister were in Sophia's position, they'd want to thank the person too. "If I give you the number," Rosa said slowly, "will you at least call? Just talk to them? You don't have to take any money. Just let them say thank you." Tyler thought about it. He thought about his bus ticket back to Virginia that left in 4 hours. Thought about his job site that started back up on Monday. Thought about his normal, quiet life. But he also thought about the look in Sophia's eyes on that TV screen. The genuine emotion there. "Okay," he finally said. "I'll call." Rosa smiled. She wrote down a number on a piece of motel stationery and handed it to Tyler. "Her name is Sophia Chen. She seems like a good person. I think she really just wants to meet you." Tyler took the paper, folded it, and put it in his pocket. His hands were shaking a little. He wasn't sure why he was so nervous. He'd jumped into the ocean to save someone without hesitation. But the idea of making a phone call terrified him. "You're doing the right thing," Rosa said encouragingly. Tyler nodded, though he wasn't sure he agreed. He went back to his room, sat on the edge of the bed that had been his home for a week, and stared at the phone number. Finally, he pulled out his phone and dialed. A man answered on the second ring. "Chen residence, security." Tyler almost hung up. "Security?" But he forced himself to speak. "Hi, my name is Tyler Webb. I was told to call this number about the girl from the beach." There was a pause. Then, "Please hold, Mr. Webb." The next voice he heard was Sophia's, slightly breathless, like she'd been running. "Hello, is this really you?" "Yeah," Tyler said quietly. "It's me. Listen, I don't want any reward or anything. Please," Sophia interrupted. "Can we meet? Just for a few minutes. I promise we won't take up much of your time. I just need to thank you properly." Tyler closed his eyes. He thought about saying no, about getting on that bus and going back to Virginia and pretending none of this ever happened. But Rosa's words echoed in his head. Maybe they need to for them. "Okay," Tyler said. "Just for a few minutes." The black SUV that pulled up to Tyler's motel looked like it cost more than his entire neighborhood back home. Actually, it probably cost more than several neighborhoods combined. Tyler stood outside, his duffel bag at his feet, feeling more out of place than he'd ever felt in his life. He'd changed into his one clean shirt, a button-up he'd brought for no particular reason, and his least worn pair of jeans. He still looked like exactly what he was, a construction worker from rural Virginia who had no business being picked up by people who drove cars like that. A man in a dark suit stepped out. He was built like someone who could break Tyler in half without much effort. "Mr. Webb? I'm David, Miss Chen's head of security. If you'll come with me, please." Tyler hesitated. This felt surreal, like he'd accidentally walked into someone else's life. But he'd made a promise, so he grabbed his bag and got in the SUV. The inside smelled like leather and money. There was another security guy in the driver's seat who nodded at Tyler but didn't speak. They drove for about 30 minutes, leaving behind the modest neighborhoods and heading into areas where Tyler could see the ocean from the road. The houses got bigger, then they stopped being houses and started being estates. When they finally pulled through a gate that probably cost more than Tyler's mom's entire house, Tyler felt his palms start to sweat. The Chen estate was massive. Not just big, massive. It sat on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, all white stone and glass windows. There were actual security guards at the entrance. Tyler counted at least 3 expensive cars parked in what he guessed was just one of several garages. Holy, Tyler breathed, then caught himself. David gave him a small smile. Everyone has that reaction the first time. They walked up to the front door, which opened before they even reached it. A woman in professional attire greeted them, then led Tyler through a foyer that had marble floors and a chandelier that looked like something from a museum. Tyler tried not to stare at everything, but it was impossible. There was actual art on the walls, not prints, but real paintings that probably had names he'd recognize if he knew anything about art. The furniture looked like it belonged in a magazine. Everything was pristine and perfect and completely intimidating. They walked through several rooms before reaching what looked like a study or library. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined one wall. The other wall was entirely glass, showing an incredible view of the ocean. And standing by that window were 2 people. Sophia looking nervous and hopeful, and an older man, her father, Richard Chen, watching Tyler with an expression that was hard to read. Tyler, Sophia said, stepping forward. Thank you so much for coming. I know this is probably overwhelming. A little bit, yeah, Tyler admitted, his accent thicker when he was nervous. Richard Chen extended his hand. His grip was firm, businesslike. Mr. Webb, I'm Richard Chen. I believe you've already met my daughter, though under less than ideal circumstances. Sir, Tyler said, shaking his hand. He felt underdressed, out of place, and completely unsure what he was supposed to do. Please, sit. Richard gestured to a couch that probably cost more than Tyler made in a year. Tyler sat carefully, like he might break something just by touching it. Sophia sat across from him in a chair, and Richard remained standing, his posture that of someone used to being in charge. First, Sophia began, her voice sincere. I want to thank you properly. What you did, jumping in without hesitation, risking your own life, I don't have words for how grateful I am. You don't need to thank me, Tyler said quietly. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, Richard said firmly. They wouldn't have. There were dozens of people on that beach. You were the only one who acted. Tyler didn't know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Sophia leaned forward slightly. Can I ask where you're from? I heard your accent when you were pulling me to shore, but I couldn't place it. Virginia, Tyler said. Small town called Cedar Creek. It's in the southwest part near the mountains. You've probably never heard of it. Is this your first time in California? Sophia asked. Yes, ma'am. First real vacation I've ever taken, actually. Something shifted in Richard's expression. What do you do for work, Mr. Webb? Construction. Been doing it since I was 18. Mostly residential, framing houses, roofing, that sort of thing. And you saved for 3 years to come to California, Richard said. It wasn't a question. Somehow he already knew. Tyler felt uncomfortable with how much they'd apparently learned about him. Yes, sir. Richard exchanged a glance with his daughter, then pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Mr. Webb, we'd like to give you something as a token of our gratitude. Tyler knew what was coming. He stood up, shaking his head. Sir, I appreciate it, but I can't accept any money. I didn't save your daughter for a reward. I did it because it was the right thing to do. $50,000 could change your life, Richard said calmly. Maybe, Tyler admitted, but taking money for doing the right thing would change who I am. And that's not a trade I'm willing to make. The room went quiet. Sophia looked surprised. Richard studied Tyler with an intensity that made him want to squirm. That's a very principled stance, Richard finally said. It's how I was raised, sir. My dad used to say that you help people because they need help, not because of what you might get out of it. Richard was quiet for another long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He smiled. Your father was a wise man. He was, sir. Richard sat down for the first time, settling into a chair near Sophia. Tell me about Cedar Creek. What's it like? Tyler wasn't sure why Richard wanted to know, but he answered honestly. He told them about his hometown, one stoplight, one gas station where everybody knew everybody. He talked about his mom, who'd raised him and his sister after their dad died, about working construction since high school to help with bills, about his sister Jessica, who'd just started her second year at community college on a scholarship. Sophia listened intently, asking questions. What was it like growing up in the mountains? Did he like construction work? What did he do for fun in a town that small? Tyler found himself relaxing a little. Sophia was easy to talk to. She didn't seem like a billionaire's daughter. She seemed genuinely interested in his life, his stories, even the boring parts. I'm studying marine biology, Sophia said when Tyler asked what she did. Working on my PhD at UC Santa Cruz. I focus on ocean conservation, coral reef restoration, that kind of thing. That's why you were in the water that morning, Tyler realized. You weren't just swimming for fun. I was doing some observations, Sophia admitted. I got too confident, went out too far. The current caught me before I realized what was happening. The ocean's no joke, Tyler said. I grew up swimming in creeks and rivers, but that Pacific water is something else entirely. They talked for another hour. Richard mostly listened, occasionally asking questions. Tyler learned that Sophia had lost her mother when she was young, which created an unexpected connection. Both of them had grown up with single parents doing their best. Finally, Richard stood up. Mr. Webb, I have a proposition for you. Tyler felt his guard go up. Sir, you strike me as someone with integrity and work ethic. Those qualities are rare. Richard walked to his desk, pulled out some papers. I've built my company by recognizing potential, and I see tremendous potential in you. Dad, Sophia said softly, a warning in her voice. Richard held up a hand. Hear me out, Mr. Webb, what are your long-term goals? Do you plan to work construction your whole life? Tyler shifted uncomfortably. I've been saving to maybe start my own contracting business someday. But that's years away, probably. What if I told you there was another path? Richard said. You mentioned you graduated high school. Did you ever consider college? Couldn't afford it, Tyler said simply. My mom got sick right after graduation. She needed help. My sister needed help. College wasn't an option. What if it could be now? Richard asked. Tyler's heart started beating faster. I'm not sure what you're asking, sir. I'm offering you a full scholarship to complete a degree. Engineering, business, whatever field interests you. Stanford would be my recommendation. It's local and it's one of the best schools in the country. Tyler felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Sir, I can't, before you say no, listen to the full offer. Full scholarship including housing and living expenses. After graduation, a guaranteed position at Chen Industries. You'd work your way up based on merit, but you'd have opportunities that construction work will never provide. Tyler's mind was racing. Stanford, a degree, a real career, the kind of future he'd never even let himself dream about because it seemed so impossible. Why? Tyler asked. Why would you do this for me? Because you saved my daughter's life, Richard said simply. Because you're the kind of person who runs toward danger instead of away from it. Because you refused $50,000 on principle. Those qualities tell me more about your character than any resume ever could. Tyler looked at Sophia, who was watching him carefully. What do you think? He asked her. I think, Sophia said slowly, that you should do what feels right to you, not what you think we want to hear. Tyler stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the ocean. The same ocean that had brought him here. The same water that had changed everything. I'd have to leave Virginia, he said quietly. Yes, Richard confirmed. My mom, my sister, would be taken care of, Richard interrupted. Part of the arrangement would include assistance for your family. Your mother's medical expenses, your sister's education. Tyler closed his eyes. It was too much. Too generous. Too overwhelming. But a small voice in his head, one that sounded suspiciously like his late father, said, When opportunity knocks, son, you answer the door. Tyler turned around. Can I have some time to think about it? Maybe talk to my family. Of course, Richard said. Take all the time you need. Here's my direct number. He handed Tyler a business card. Call me when you've made a decision. Tyler took the card. The heavy paper stock just another reminder of how different this world was from his own. Thank you, he said. For everything. For the offer, for all of this. Sophia walked him to the door.
Tyler, she said quietly.
Whatever you decide, I hope we can stay in touch. I'd like to be friends if that's okay. Tyler looked at her, really looked at her. She was beautiful, yes, but more than that. She was kind, genuine. Despite growing up in all this wealth, she seemed grounded. I'd like that, he said honestly. As the SUV drove Tyler back to his motel, his head spun with possibilities. His phone buzzed. A text from his mom. Hope you're having fun, honey. We miss you. Tyler stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Miss you too, Mom. We need to talk when I get home. Something happened. The bus ride back to Virginia took 3 days. Tyler had a lot of time to think. He stared out the window as California turned into Nevada, then Utah, then Colorado. The landscape changed with each state, mountains giving way to desert, then back to mountains again. His mind kept replaying the conversation with Richard Chen. Stanford, a real degree, a future he'd never imagined possible. But leaving home, leaving his mom and sister, that was the part that kept him up at night as the bus rolled through darkness. When Tyler finally walked through the door of the small house he shared with his mom, it was late evening. The porch light was on just like always. His mom must have heard the door because she came rushing from the kitchen, dish towel still in her hands. Tyler! Oh, honey, I missed you. She wrapped him in a hug that smelled like home, lavender soap and whatever she'd been cooking for dinner. Missed you too. Mom, Tyler said, hugging her back tight. His sister Jessica came bounding down the stairs. Tell me everything. Was California amazing? Did you see any celebrities? Tyler laughed. I saw the ocean. That was celebrity enough for me. They sat around the small kitchen table, the same one Tyler had eaten breakfast at every morning growing up. His mom served him leftover pot roast, his favorite. For a while, Tyler just enjoyed being home, listening to Jessica talk about her classes, hearing his mom's stories about her church group. But eventually, he had to tell them. He had to explain what happened. Tyler took a breath. So something happened while I was in California. Something big. His mom's expression shifted to concern. Are you okay? You're not hurt? No, nothing like that. Tyler pulled out his phone, showed them the news clip that Rosa had shown him. I saved someone from drowning. Jessica's eyes went wide. Oh my God, Tyler. That's amazing. His mom watched the video, her hand over her mouth. When it ended, she looked at Tyler with tears in her eyes. You could have died, but I didn't, Tyler said gently. And the girl, Sophia, she's okay. That's what matters. Richard Chen, his mom read from the screen. Why does that name sound familiar? He's one of the richest people in America, Mom. Tech billionaire. And Sophia is his daughter. Jessica whistled low. You saved a billionaire's daughter? That's insane. That's not the insane part, Tyler said. He told them about the search, the phone call, the visit to the Chen estate. And then he told them about the offer. The kitchen went silent. His mom was the first to speak. Stanford? Tyler, that's incredible. That's a life-changing opportunity. But it means leaving, Tyler said quietly. Moving to California, being away from you both. Oh, honey, his mom reached across the table and took his hand. You can't turn this down because of us. Mom, you need help with your medications, with bills. Tyler James Webb, his mom said firmly, using his full name like she did when he was in trouble. You have been taking care of this family since you were 15 years old. You gave up a football scholarship to stay here when I got sick. You've worked yourself to the bone to help pay for Jessica's school. You've put everyone else first your entire life. That's what family does, Tyler said. Yes, his mom agreed. And now your family is telling you to take this opportunity. Your father would want this for you. I want this for you? Jessica nodded enthusiastically. Tyler, this is Stanford. Do you know how amazing that is? People dream their whole lives about getting into Stanford. But the money... Mr. Chen said he'd help with Mom's expenses, right? Jessica interrupted. And my school? So that's handled. You can't use us as an excuse not to go. Tyler felt his eyes sting. I don't know if I belong there. I'm a construction worker from Cedar Creek. What do I know about Stanford? You know how to work hard, his mom said. You know how to never give up. You know right from wrong. That's more important than anything else. She squeezed his hand. Baby, you jumped into the ocean to save a stranger. You refused money because it didn't feel right. You have more character than most people I've met. If anyone belongs at Stanford, it's you. Tyler looked at both of them. the two people he loved most in the world. They were both smiling at him, encouraging him, pushing him towards something he was terrified to reach for. "What if I fail?" Tyler asked quietly. "Then you fail," his mom said simply. "But at least you tried. The only real failure is not trying at all." That night, Tyler lay in his childhood bedroom staring at the ceiling. The same ceiling he'd stared at when he was 12 and his dad died. The same ceiling he'd stared at when he decided to give up his scholarship. The same ceiling that had been there through every major decision of his life. Tomorrow he had to go back to work. Back to the construction site, back to the physical labor. Back to the life he'd known forever. Or he could call Richard Chen and say yes. Tyler pulled out the business card, running his thumb over the embossed letters. He thought about his dad, about what he'd say if he were here. His dad had always pushed him to be better, to reach higher. "You're smart, Tyler," he used to say. "Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let this town be the limit of what you can do." Tyler picked up his phone and dialed before he could change his mind. Richard Chen answered on the third ring. "Mr. Webb, I was hoping you'd call." "I talked to my family," Tyler said. "They think I should accept your offer." "And what do you think?" Tyler was quiet for a moment. "I think I'm terrified. I think I don't know if I'm smart enough or good enough. But I also think I'd regret it forever if I didn't try." "Then you have your answer," Richard said, and Tyler could hear the smile in his voice. "When can you start?" The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Tyler gave notice at his construction job. His boss, a gruff man named Pete who'd employed Tyler for 10 years, actually got a little emotional. "You're gonna do great things, kid," Pete said, shaking his hand on Tyler's last day. "Don't forget about us little people when you're rich and famous." "I could never forget this place," Tyler said honestly. "This job, this town, it made me who I am." Tyler had to take a placement test for Stanford. He studied every night after work, reviewing math he hadn't touched since high school, reading everything he could get his hands on. When the results came back, he'd done better than he expected. Not perfect, but good enough. He'd need some remedial courses, but Richard had already arranged for tutors to help him catch up. Sophia called him every few days. They'd talk for hours, about everything and nothing. She told him about her research, about the coral reefs she was trying to save. He told her about life in Cedar Creek, about the mountains, about the stars at night when there was no light pollution. "Are you nervous?" Sophia asked one night about a week before Tyler was supposed to move. "Terrified," Tyler admitted. "I keep thinking everyone there is going to know I don't belong." "You saved someone's life," Sophia said firmly. "You work harder than anyone I know. You have more integrity than half the people at Stanford. You belong there as much as anyone." "How do you know I work harder than anyone?" Tyler asked, a smile in his voice. "Because you spent 10 years in construction, saved every penny for 3 years just to take one vacation, and still put your family first. That tells me everything I need to know." Tyler felt warmth spread through his chest. Over the past few weeks, Sophia had become more than just the girl he saved. She'd become a friend. Maybe even more than a friend, though Tyler was afraid to think too hard about that. "Will I see you when I get there?" Tyler asked. "I'm picking you up from the airport," Sophia said. "My dad's sending a car, but I'm coming with it. Someone needs to show you around campus. You don't have to do that." "I want to," Sophia said softly. "Besides, I have to make sure you don't chicken out and get back on the plane." Tyler laughed. "I might." "You won't," Sophia said confidently. "You're braver than you think, Tyler Webb." The day Tyler left Cedar Creek, half the town came to say goodbye. His mom cried, but she was smiling through the tears. Jessica made him promise to call every week. His old high school football coach showed up and gave him a pep talk about not giving up when things got tough. "Life's gonna throw you some hard hits," Coach Williams said, "but you're tougher than you look. Always have been." Tyler hugged his mom one last time before getting in the taxi that would take him to the airport. "I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby." "Make us proud. I will. I promise." As the taxi pulled away, Tyler looked back at the small house, at his mom and sister waving from the porch, at the town that had been his entire world for 28 years. He was leaving behind everything familiar, everything safe, but he was moving toward something new, something scary, something that might just change his entire life. Tyler pulled out his phone and texted Sophia. "On my way to the airport. No turning back now." Her response came immediately. "Good, California's waiting for you." "I'm waiting for you." Tyler smiled and put his phone away. Whatever happened next, whatever challenges Stanford threw at him, at least he wouldn't be facing it alone. The plane lifted off 3 hours later, and Tyler watched Virginia disappear beneath the clouds. His hands gripped the armrest tight. He'd never been on a plane before. Just another first in what was about to be a long list of firsts. But he was ready. Or at least he was going to try to be ready. As the plane climbed higher, Tyler thought about his dad one more time. "Hope I'm making you proud," he whispered. "Somewhere." Somehow, Tyler knew his dad was smiling. 2 years later, Tyler stood in front of his engineering class at Stanford, presenting his final project. His hands weren't shaking anymore. That had taken a while. The first semester had been brutal. Tyler remembered sitting in his dorm room that first month, staring at calculus problems that might as well have been written in another language. He'd called his mom crying more than once, convinced he'd made a terrible mistake. "Everyone else here is so smart, Mom. They all went to fancy prep schools. They've been preparing for this their whole lives. I'm just a construction worker pretending to be a college student." His mom's response had been simple. "You're not pretending anything. You earned your place there. Now stop feeling sorry for yourself and get back to work." So Tyler had worked, harder than he'd ever worked in his life. While other students were at parties, Tyler was in the library. While they slept in on weekends, Tyler was meeting with tutors, reviewing materials, doing extra practice problems. Slowly, painfully, it started to click. The math began making sense. The engineering concepts that seemed impossible at first became understandable, then easy, then interesting. Sophia had been there through all of it. She'd drive down from UC Santa Cruz on weekends bringing coffee and encouragement. They'd study together, her working on her marine biology research, him wrestling with structural engineering principles. Their friendship had deepened into something more, though neither of them had rushed it. Tyler was too busy trying to survive Stanford. Sophia was focused on her PhD. But somewhere along the way, study sessions had turned into dinner dates. Coffee breaks had become long walks around campus. And one night, under the stars near the engineering building, Tyler had finally kissed her. "I was wondering when you'd do that," Sophia had said, smiling against his lips. "I wanted to make sure I wasn't just some charity case to you," Tyler admitted. Sophia had pulled back, looking at him seriously. "Tyler, you saved my life before you knew who I was. You refused money on principle. You worked harder than anyone I've ever met to earn your place here. You're not a charity case. You're the most genuine person I know." That had been 8 months ago. Now they were together, really together. And somehow, against all odds, Tyler was about to graduate with honors. His presentation was on affordable housing solutions, combining his construction background with his engineering education. He'd designed a system for building sustainable, low-cost homes that could be constructed quickly and efficiently in areas where housing was scarce. When he finished presenting, his professor stood up and started clapping. The rest of the class joined in. "Mr. Webb," Professor Martinez said, "this is exactly the kind of innovative thinking the world needs. Have you considered pursuing this further?" "Actually," Tyler said, "I already have a job lined up at Chen Industries. Mr. Chen wants me to lead a pilot program based on this research." What Tyler didn't mention was how that had come about. Richard Chen hadn't just handed him the position. Tyler had interviewed for it like anyone else, competing against candidates with more experience and better pedigrees. But his presentation, his passion for helping working families like his own, had won Richard over. "You understand the problem because you've lived it," Richard had told him after offering him the job. "That's worth more than any Ivy League degree." Graduation day was warm and sunny. Tyler walked across the stage in his cap and gown, shook hands with the dean, and accepted his diploma. In the crowd, he could see his mom crying happy tears. Jessica was there too, about to start her senior year at a 4-year university. Her transfer had been paid for by a scholarship that Tyler suspected had Richard Chen's fingerprints all over it. But the person Tyler's eyes found immediately was Sophia. She was standing next to her father, beaming with pride, and when their eyes met, she mouthed the words, "I'm so proud of you." After the ceremony, Tyler's mom hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "Your daddy would be so proud," she whispered. "I wish he could see you now." "I think he can, Mom," Tyler said softly. Richard Chen shook his hand firmly. "You've exceeded every expectation, Tyler. I knew you had potential, but you've proven yourself beyond anything I imagined. I had a lot of help, sir, Tyler said. I wouldn't be here without you taking a chance on me. No, Richard corrected. I gave you an opportunity. You're the one who seized it. There's a difference. That evening, there was a small celebration at the Chen estate, the same place Tyler had first visited 2 years ago. But this time he didn't feel out of place. He'd been here dozens of times now. It was starting to feel almost normal. Almost, Sophia pulled him away from the party, leading him down to the beach. The same beach where everything had started. They took off their shoes and walked along the water's edge, the sunset painting the sky orange and pink. Do you ever think about that day? Sophia asked. The day you saved me? All the time, Tyler admitted. My whole life changed because I happened to be at the right place at the right time. It wasn't just timing, Sophia said. It was who you are. Anyone else might have looked away, called for help, waited for someone else to act. But you didn't hesitate. Tyler was quiet for a moment, watching the waves roll in. You know what's funny? I was terrified that week. I'd saved for 3 years for that vacation, and I was so worried I'd waste it somehow, that I wouldn't make it special enough. And instead you saved someone's life and changed your own forever, Sophia said. Yeah, Tyler smiled. Definitely made it special. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Tyler thought about everything that had happened. 2 years ago, he was a construction worker from Cedar Creek, Virginia, who'd never left his home state. Now he had a Stanford degree, a job at one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and was dating an amazing woman who just happened to be a billionaire's daughter. It still felt surreal sometimes. Tyler, Sophia said, stopping and turning to face him. Can I ask you something? Anything. Do you ever regret it? Leaving Virginia, leaving your old life behind? I know you miss home. Tyler thought about the question carefully. I miss my mom. I miss Jessica. I even miss the mountains sometimes. But regret? No, never. He took Sophia's hands. This, you, my education, the chance to actually make a difference, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Sophia smiled, relief evident on her face. Good, because I have something to tell you. What? I finished my PhD last week. The paperwork is all done. I'm officially Dr. Chen now. Tyler broke into a huge grin and picked her up, spinning her around. Sophia, that's amazing. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to wait until after your graduation, she said, laughing. Didn't want to steal your thunder. Steal my thunder? Are you kidding? This is incredible. Tyler set her down but kept holding her. Dr. Chen, wow, I'm dating a doctor. You're dating a doctor who's starting a new research position, Sophia corrected. At the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Which means I'm staying in California. Tyler felt his heart skip. He'd been worried about what would happen after graduation. If Sophia's research would take her somewhere else. If their relationship could survive distance. You're staying, he repeated. I'm staying, Sophia confirmed. My research, my work, it's all here. And you're here. I want to be where you are, Tyler. Tyler kissed her, tasting salt spray and happiness. When they pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you. You know that, right? I know, Sophia whispered. I love you too. They stayed on the beach until the sun fully set, talking about the future. Tyler's pilot housing project. Sophia's coral reef restoration work. Maybe getting a place together. Maybe eventually something more permanent. 3 years after that conversation on the beach, Tyler stood in a very different setting. He was back in Cedar Creek, Virginia, in the small church where he'd attended services his whole life. The same church where his father's funeral had been held, but today was a celebration. Sophia walked down the aisle in a simple white dress, her father escorting her. Tyler's mom was crying in the front row. Jessica was the maid of honor. And Tyler, wearing a suit that actually fit him properly now, felt like the luckiest man alive. The ceremony was simple. They'd both wanted it that way. No elaborate production, just family and close friends. People from Cedar Creek mixed with people from California. Tyler's old construction crew sat next to Stanford professors. His high school football coach chatted with Richard Chen about the housing project that had now built over 500 homes nationwide. When the pastor pronounced them husband and wife, Tyler kissed Sophia and heard cheers from everyone he loved. At the reception, held in the church fellowship hall with decorations that Jessica had insisted on making herself. Tyler gave a toast. 5 years ago, he began. I jumped into the ocean to save a stranger. I didn't know who she was. Didn't know it would change my life. I just knew someone needed help and I could help them. He looked at Sophia, who was wiping tears from her eyes. I thought I was saving her that day, but the truth is she saved me right back. She believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She pushed me to be better, to reach higher, to never settle. Tyler raised his glass. So here's to taking chances. To helping people. To remembering that the right thing to do is usually the hard thing to do. And to love that finds you when you least expect it. Everyone drank to that. Later, as Tyler and Sophia danced their first dance as husband and wife, she whispered in his ear, "No regrets?" Tyler pulled back to look at her, this incredible woman who'd changed everything. Not a single one, and he meant it. Every challenge, every hard moment, every time he'd wanted to give up, it had all been worth it. Because doing one good thing, one right thing, had led to everything else. Sometimes Tyler still thought about that construction worker from Cedar Creek who'd never seen the ocean. Who'd worked so hard for so little. Who'd dreamed small because dreaming big seemed impossible. That guy would be amazed at where life had taken him. But more than that, Tyler hoped that guy would be proud. Proud that success hadn't changed who he was at his core. Proud that he still called his mom every week. Proud that he still went back to Cedar Creek every summer to teach construction skills to kids who needed a chance. Proud that he'd never forgotten where he came from, even as he'd built something new. As the music played and Sophia rested her head on his shoulder, Tyler smiled. Life was pretty good for a poor Virginia guy who'd once jumped into the ocean without thinking twice.